want to call that, favored. And the only real blowouts we've seen are from these players that are going for the risky hard target strategies. We've seen it fail from Chonsu and Warma, but recently work for Yarla and just now Alan once again. So I think that the success of this particular lineup will really inform the meta for the playoffs week.
Absolutely. That's going to be a very, very interesting deal, because then it's kind of different entirely. In the playoffs, you have to work your way up through a bracket and then the semi-finals and finals. You're not just against one or two competitors. So maybe we see a more all-rounded strategy being gone for instead of the hard target. It will be very interesting to see. Starting things off, though, with the Demon Hunter up against the Priest, and we already see TIZS has shaken up his list a little bit from last week, which I'm a big fan of. We were thinking that his deck, without the Holy Smite, was running a little bit light on ability to actually kill anything on the board. And so I think taking out the Galakron, putting in the Holy Smite and the Kabul Shadow Priest is a really good way to go.
I like that too. He's also taken out the Mindrender Elusia. I'm not quite sure if he was running that last week, but this is a card that I think had its best matchup up against Druid, and now that Druid's been nerfed, you don't necessarily get to play Elusia on curve and try and steal all of their ramp cards, and it's even less reason for running that card, so I do like TIZS' streamlined list.
Honestly, though, just pretty strong build, pretty strong start here for both players. Obviously, Kin has access to plenty of development with Coin One Thief, One Maker into One Maker, but with the pickup of Kaj as well, and Raise Dead in hand to get both Kaj and the Cleric of Scales back, this is an insane Priest hand.
It really is. And the fact that the Karj copies the One Maker, if Kin wants to go for the turbo clear on the Karj and the One Maker, that's still a good Raise Dead target for Kin.
Sure.
In the end, I think it makes a lot of sense to just go with his own curve of Mana Feeder Panthera. In hand for Kin, we see the interesting inclusion of Lore Keeper Polkelt, which I've been toying around with Demon Hunter, and I don't think it's a great pick for ladder, but that card helps versus Priest. With the specific hand from Kin, though, he already has ways of tutoring out the other skull.
Yes, he does, of course, with the doubly jumps. It's not a guarantee, I believe, looking at this. Oh, no, sorry, I was looking at TIZS there. Yeah, with just the skulls, he can guarantee himself pulling the skull,
no!
But he's got both of them already now.
The double jumps are useless, and the Polkelt shuffles Lapidaries to the top now, and Gravebound Adept.
Which is okay.
Yeah,
you know,
good. Yeah,
that's pretty good. That's the good part of drawing skull. The bad part, as you said, is useless.
And the other bad part is he just doesn't have fragments in the deck, so the Lapidaries are kind of bad.
Right.
And the Militia's already in hand, so everything is awkward.
Okay. So let's map this out. If he goes for Lawkeeper Polkelt, next turn he could, in a couple of turns' time he can go Skull, which at that point would guarantee him a Marrow Slicer, I believe, and then he could start activating the other 5 drops available. So I do think this is the play on this turn.
It is. The alternatives were very, very gross, and the 4/5 body is nothing to scoff at against Priest. So the next turn, I think Kin is pretty much committed to a removal turn, be it with Blade Dance or just double jump to get it out of hand, because he'll be running into some hand space issues with the skull.
This is just so strong, though, from TIZS. Oh my goodness, I don't even know what you pick there. Like, obviously Apotheosis is amazing, but the tempo that he can gain from another Raise Dead is absolutely insane.
I think he's got no shortage of resources with both Skeletal Dragon and Murazan in hand, so I like just having the Apotheosis in your back pocket in case of disaster. The thing he will be thinking is Kin has just drawn Militia right now. This is the turn after Polkelt. Doesn't know that Kin already had the 3 most expensive cards in his deck in hand. So from TIZS' perspective, he just wants to make sure that come turn 7, he would have Soul Mirror or something like that to deal with a whiteboard. Oh my gosh. This is like, huh? Both skulls are in your hand? And he can gain so much info from that.
I guess that was the play. Like, the alternative was, of course, trying to find a... Like, there was a clear available with Twin Slice Blade Dance, where you can clear off the Polkelt as well by attacking into the Kaj first, but just not worth it in Kin's opinion. He's going to take this into the late game.
I mean, ever since he played Polkelt, committing to not having the Lapidary active until he gets the Marrow Slicer, that's kind of the only avenue he has left to victory. But the upside is you guarantee the discounts on some very high value cards, and Priest tends to be able to pick apart the damage you put forward when they're aware of how much you can put out in a single turn. But if it's going to be Glaive Bounds and Lapidaries and board wipes all at once, that can start to get problematic.
That was a deceptively complicated turn there from TIZS, because he has the information, as you said, 100% that Skull is in hand. And so keeping Murozond at 10 mana in order to cast the Skull on the next turn was pretty strong. You know, being able to draw 3 cards and develop an 8/8 is very powerful, but that would mean not going for the Skeletal Dragon on that turn, which is pretty disastrous in its own right.
Yep.
It was a lot harder than it appeared.
It's true. And there's still the upside of keeping Murozond for the turn that they actually play everything they get from the Skull, which is going to be more cards and high-value cards than you would expect from Murozond generally.
That's a good point.
So Mage Scribe, I'd have to assume?
Yeah, you can even go second slice right now if you need to, if you want to get the activation.
Seems fine. What he knows is that the other skull was in hand, so as for discounts from Kin's side, he can put them on at least one of the 5-drops, I think.
Right.
And he also knows there's a militia in hand by this point.
Is he afraid of hand space here? He doesn't want the spells in hand because of everything he's generating? Wow.
Maybe.
Okay, fair enough, I suppose.
Kin is just kind of dying.
He is just kind of dying. Oh my
But
god.
this is going to be a big, big, big blade dance.
Yep.
One too many targets for it to be very clean. But at most, Kin would tank more damage.
Yeah, obviously there's a 4/5 still inside that Kaj, so I guess you hope that the Kaj is the thing that survives?
Yeah. Ay, ay, ay. That's so scary.
He is 1 damage off just dying. Oh no, I take that back. He's just dead to Murozond.
You're right. For the Marrow Slicer.
Mm-hmm. That's just game. TIZS sees it instantly. Game 1 over, going to the Priest, and it was an absolutely dominant display from the Priest. An insane starting hand all around, and a disastrous start to the game for TIZS. For Kin, sorry.
It's so infrequent that you get to see that type of pan out from this matchup. Usually it's the Demon Hunter that's the first one to get on board and maybe cause the Priest a little bit of issues until they can land their Cobalt Spellkin, which is finally of a health total where Demon Hunter has to go like, oh, is it worth trading into this to prevent Apotheosis? But it completely turned on its head because TIZS did not have early development other than the One Makers, and the One Makers gave nothing of use because he just drew the skulls naturally. Pretty unlucky.
Yeah, that was absolutely very unlucky. But I think it really does just speak to how you are supposed to play the Priest matchup. And I think that, for me, from TIZS, like, TIZS hasn't been a standout to me this season, if I'm honest, which is not to say that he's played poorly at all. It's just that I think he hasn't done anything especially inspired. He's just been playing solid Hearthstone throughout, and we haven't seen any presence from him on social media. I haven't talked to him very much, so it's understandable, I think, that he hasn't made quite the impression that like Bank Yugi has, for example, having talked to him a little bit more. But the thing I do want to say that I've been incredibly impressed by from TIZS is his Priest play in particular. I think he understands the deck at an incredibly deep level, and just seems to be winning matchups that he has no business doing whatsoever. Like against Tyler when he was up against the Bomb Warrior with, oh no, it was Alutemu, I believe, sorry, when he had no weapon destruction in his deck and yet just overdrew all the bombs that the Bomb Warrior put in and just absolutely fatigued the Bomb Warrior of any resources. Like, he knows how to play it in every style of matchup, and I think that's definitely been his biggest strength so far this series.
I would agree. It's why we see TIZS bringing Priest week after week, even though most of the rest of APAC deems it to be not good enough of a class, or they just don't feel as comfortable playing it. On the other side, though, TIZS I remember him getting reverse swept on Tempo Mage, and he has just
Right.
had a pretty bad win rate with it overall. So I'm not surprised to see it leave his lineup. If you have a deck that you feel you can pilot better than the rest of the field, and a deck that you don't necessarily feel is your best one, even though it's popular, I think it's an absolutely valid strategy to build your lineup around the deck that you feel most comfortable with. And if you have the upshot of that lineup being something your opponent doesn't expect, sometimes you can get an edge as well if they were targeting Mage instead.
I agree completely. It's easy for us to sit here and say, get good at the deck if you don't know how to play it, but there's only so many hours in a week that you have to practice. You want to practice the matchups with all of your other decks as well. Something has to take a hit in terms of what you are and are not practicing. And like you said, got to prioritize. And I think for TIZS, we've seen that Tempo Mage definitely isn't at the power level of being an auto-include in your lineup. It's strong, absolutely, which is why the majority of players are bringing it. But you don't have to go for it. Now TIZS 1 game up, only has the Rogue in the Secret Rogue and the Warrior left over. Again, looking like in a decent spot. The Mage is looking weak for Kin. The Weapon Rogue, honestly, isn't looking in an amazing spot either, given that this is the Pirate package from TIZS. So even against the Warrior, that's far from an auto win for Kin.
You asked for it.
I would have to agree. But opener for Kin is already looking pretty good. Just a 1-2 curve, getting Spellwing online as soon as possible so you can get missiles is a pretty interesting proposition. And also the Raz Frost Whisper doesn't quite have the spell damage minions to back it up a bit later, but in the cases where Rogue doesn't go super tall and instead try to overwhelm you with lackeys, Raz can be a backup.
Yeah, it absolutely can, and TIZS holding on to the Evil Miscreant does look like that might be the game plan we're going for, but devolving missiles exactly off of the Wand Thief. Yeah, that's good. Do more of that.
This is what Kin needed. He's, to be fair, running one natural copy of Devolving Missiles in the list, so there's some respect for Rogue in there. But it's so huge that he has that on demand, because look at TIZ's hand. Questing, Edwin, Coin, Backstab.
It's kind of tough as to how you play it out, isn't it? Because there was obviously just Coin, Backstab, Edwin on that turn, which was a reasonable play if nothing else, but left for a very weak follow-up. I wonder if this is ever going to be a questing hand first and then follow up with Edwin afterwards. Probably not.
It's tough, right? Because no matter which way you go around, the next one will be a lot smaller. So I generally like starting with Edwin because it's more stats.
Yeah.
I think he was holding on to Coin just so he could fit in the 1-drop as well. And that's a better 1-drop to do it with.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. Alright, not all in here because he didn't play it on the last turn. Still has follow-up, of course, does TIZS, but this is a massive blow to his game plan. Assuming, sorry, that the Devolving Missiles do in fact hit it, which he can ensure with the ping.
No risks taken here for Kin. The mana works out really nicely with the Thalnos as well. And then he's just in Jandis territory, curving out. Looking really good for Kin.
Going into turn 5, playing out the Neophyte is obviously not of the highest priority. Like you said, Jandis and Raz being the main plays that they want to go for. So I think I like just getting the Miscreant online.
I do too. It feels bad to have to use your Blackjack Stunner like this, but the alternative plays were weak to just about everything Kin would play onto the board.
What makes something real?
Ooh, good stats. There's opportunity for mind games here. They have the same amount of health. So
Job done.
okay. No mind game.
Yeah, I think it makes such little difference either way because they just have like a whole bunch of one attack capabilities with the one attack guys, the dagger. You just keep the better minion alive.
Oh, it's because it makes so little difference that I was thinking that.
Okay,
I
maybe.
don't know. Anyway,
But maybe Kin
TIZS
realized
has the perfect information now, and he can just rush out the Candle Taker and then trade Miscreant into the 4/5.
This is what you didn't even realize, though, Gia. This was the mind games all along, because it was so obvious to do the mind games. You don't do the mind games to mind games them. Mm.
The poison is in your goblet. That's my final answer. All right, clean Raz.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a real land war in Asia Pacific here to try and wrestle board back, and the Raz does a fantastic job of that.
Oh, deep. I guess Tome works for his next turn, which is probably like 2 spells Cyclone and then play a spell afterward. But man, I was super interested in Deep Freeze for the turn after next.
Oh, that is a spicy top deck now.
Yeah, how does... maybe
So-
it's... The questing doesn't really fit.
So how does it work? If you go questing Titanic prep potion here, you end up with 3 cards being played, so you have a 5/7 on board. You can trade into the Jadis. It's not bad, right? And you get
It's true,
the 1/1 questing is the big deal.
Yes, I actually don't think the 1/1 questing is a super big deal, but the fact that you can get a questing on board right now seems of utmost import because he currently doesn't have a good way of dealing with the Raz. You can go for a Neophyte Disruption, but then you miss out on the most activations for questing, so I think this is the fine.
Yeah, I think right now for TIZS, like, you haven't seen any indication that they're building up to a massive spell turn. They've just kind of been playing stuff on curve, and so therefore focusing on your own game plan definitely feels of a higher priority.
Ooh. Surely it should just be looking for a way to deal with the questing, right? I don't think you can afford Shanvala here.
No, I don't think it's Shenvala. I'm just wondering if it's an evocation turn, because you can obviously go for a reasonable double Cyclone here and maybe get some spell damage in as well.
Even with a single spell damage minion, there's technically a guaranteed clear on the questing. You have to ship the
True.
Raz in, but it's fine. Oh, Kirin Tor!
Oh.
That's so spicy. So that would be 4 damage
4?
from... Yeah? 5, 6. It's a little bit short of being the cleanest.
Can even fit in a Cyclone as well, depending on what you get. Trade and attack. It's a very, very close battle here as this Raz does a huge amount of damage to this board. But now TIZS gets the payoff of that line. The 3-mana 5/7 was only the appetizer. This is where it gets interesting.
We're looking for ways to deal with the 3/3, more efficient ways to deal with the Raz. Oh, man. Do you settle for Arcane, or do you take Magic Trick to juice up the questing even more? I think he has enough ways of spending his mana.
I agree. Yeah. You just want an immediate answer to Raz.
But you're leaving up the Kirin Tor. Oh, that's scary.
So he's digging for an answer.
Looking for Eviscerate, Backstab. Oh, Shadow Step, you'll take that.
What?
Oh, Prep Seek! Oh my goodness, they're
That's
all
insane!
playable! They're all playable. Gigantic
Oh.
questing.
Choose soon.
Cone of Cold, I think,
Cone.
for freeze.
Yeah, I like that. And then Anar, Prep, Secret, go, go, go! Take the Paladin, play the Paladin,
Mm-hmm.
and then take, I don't know at this point, Ambush.
What a turn.
Absolutely insane. And for Kin, it is such a big deal that he has this rolling fireball.
Yep, that's the only thing keeping him in this game right now. Beefing it up to, what even is that? Enough to clear the questing and almost take out the Wand Thief as well?
Yep. Between the fireball and the arcane missiles, it's looking pretty good. But what secrets are we worried about here?
Never Surrender is the big one, right?
Yes.
So he's taking some trades first.
Sure. Now that he knows that Paladin Secret is not Never Surrender, none of the rogue secrets interact with spells on board.
Yes, exactly.
super clean from Kin.
Yep.
You love to see it.
Gorgeous ordering. Very good technical gameplay there. As he clears the entire board and gives TIZS a pretty lackluster couple of cards, to be fair. Like, the Rolling Fireball is okay, but the only thing Kin is really afraid of is proactive development right now, which TIZS doesn't really have.
If he had one more mana, there was... Or if the Learn Draconic procced itself, that would be development plus clear, but that's not the case. So, are we looking at stunning the 3-2 instead and Cult Neophyte just to have something on board? Like, Learn Draconic, Ambush, Blackjack Stunner, Cult Neophyte Dagger.
I'm not seeing a whole lot else. Like, unless you want to massively overkill with the Fireball.
I was gonna say, I was looking at Stunner this turn because the Ambush is pretty likely to go off the next turn, and it's the only one of the Rogue Secrets that doesn't generate more value in hand, other than Bamboozle, which he doesn't run. So I was thinking it would get played there, but then again, the Titanic does just make the Cult Neophyte a little bit more durable.
Indeed. The big thing now, of course, that even with all these expensive spells, Kin is just winning on value, and also with the health. The amount of damage that TIZS had to tank before he could swing things back is proving a big problem now.
Yep. Oh, I'm not gonna lie, I was looking at Arcane Missiles and a mini Cyclone there instead of the Ping and Lab Partner, because then you can use the Cyclone spells and by then maybe get a good evocation.
I don't mind setting up for maybe a slightly bigger mana Cyclone. Like, you do still have to be somewhat afraid of losing out on value here, I think, as Kin.
Okay.
It's at least a consideration.
For TIZS, though, the value game plan is slowly slipping away, but the Miscreant can create some avenues for getting back into it.
Very big deal. Those are very low value, though.
Potentially, that turn, Rolling Fireball Cone of Cold looked decent to me, just to get the 6/6 online. Ooh.
Yeah, either way, now it's go time for Kin. He can freeze off all the relevant minions, get a big Cyclone down. It's everything you could ever want in a turn.
If you go Cyclone, you potentially miss out. Okay, fine. There's still chances to hit the double activation off of Cyclone, but it's low, right?
I think impossible actually off Cyclone.
Yeah.
You lock yourself out of the mana, so you could argue it's evocation to get the double activation, but even then, I think you just save that.
Yeah, the mana was just a little bit short of being able to do that with Cyclone, but that was about to be the point I was bringing up for maybe going evocation, but I completely agree that you miss out on too much value. I think more cards in hand is more valuable than a 5/5 at the moment.
That's the draw. That both gets him some better cards in his deck and activates the 6/6 off of Learn Draconic.
But does he start with freeze? He's kind of just dying. I don't think you can spend 4 mana on this. He needs something amazing off of the passage.
Oh, I don't even know what it can be anymore. Like, Hanar has been played and died. Questing is at best, I guess, the biggest thing you can get.
Jandis, One Thief.
Right. Okay.
Oh,
One
man.
Thief into Power of Creation. Deep Freeze.
Now you wish you went for the Cone of Cold first.
Yeah. Yikes.
Choose soon.
A very sad barrier. Okay, actually, Explosion Vendetta. That seems better.
Can clear off, I guess, the Shenvala, just so it doesn't kill you on the next turn. Ugh. Okay, fair enough.
Good spot from TIZS with the time he had left.
Did he get the dagger in as well? Nice.
Okay. So well, Kin can either see this as dirty tricks or plagiarize from this point. He'll know immediately after playing a spell, and he will be free to play the rest of his stuff.
Indeed. Probably ending up with the Conjurer's Calling right on the 5/5 unless anything spicier presents itself.
I like the punch. Just taking the cheapest one there, gearing up for evocation the next turn, I suppose. Oh, Mazaki! Totem Goliath too.
Yeah, those are
Okay.
extremely juicy options. Mozaki with evocation next turn, looking like it's just gonna be a game ender. So we're looking for the miracles now.
Whoa,
TIZS gets
yes, Sarah!
Yes, Sarah?
He has 5 cards left in the deck. You can just put more dragons than there are cards, but is he alive on board? I don't think he is.
I mean, he has...
So
Oh no, wait, he doesn't have barrier because he took the explosion. Okay.
I wonder.
it's just that
So
you can't
Mischief
piece
and
together a turn where you survive and get to play Ysera, I think, for the
Yeah.
rest of the game. So probably just Mischiefin.
Well, there's your Sarah Titanic lackey next turn if you can survive this turn.
Don't let the door hit you. I choose soon.
I think if you're going about it this way, I kind of did prefer the Ysera, right? Like his hand would be Ysera Titanic.
Yes. Because he took the Mischiefin, I thought he was going to play it this turn with the Cone of Cold instead of stepping
Yeah.
the Mazaki. And that obviously had risks entailed, but they will have the Mazaki in hand anyway if they're trying to go over the top with lethal. I think the minion damage was his more immediate concern.
So obviously Kin is, I think, knows 100% that this is plagiarized now, so wants to be very cautious about what he actually plays on this turn. But at
He'll
the
know
same
it's-
time, he can't take his foot off the pedal 100% here, because there's 11 damage on the board.
Yeah, I think you're fine giving them a Mazaki. They have
Okay.
very few cards left in the deck. So, just like Mazaki Thalnos ping, potentially?
Okay, that's a
Yeah.
cheap mana giant you're probably giving them at this point.
Yes. I'm not sure how much. But the key point is that he has not played a spell, so they're not also getting the dirty tricks.
Okay. And now, if you can taunt up the Mozaki, maybe you go for just as the highest health, but minion you don't really care about. Like, a lot of stuff can happen this turn.
What about taunting the giant? Questing giant, taunt, Mazaki, Mischiefin? Mishiefin's another taunt. He just has quite a lot of survivability, strangely
Yeah, yeah.
enough.
I mean, my point with targeting the Mozaki was just that you taunt something that you don't care about, but still has 8 health. I guess this is powerful at clearing the board at the same time, though.
Yeah, the giant can maybe take some VTs, whereas Mazaki gets VT'd.
That's fair. That's
So,
fair.
So 3-3-1-2 into the Waxadread, I assume, and then Mischiefin comes down 1-2 into Thalnos, and then base. I want to say. Oh, he has to set up counter lethal is the thing.
He does.
Okay, he's killing the giant instead.
Trying to just win on board. This is closer than I thought it was ever going to be a couple turns ago.
But it could very well just end off the back of this evocation.
Mazaki's still in play. Apprentice as well! Oh my
Go,
god.
go, go, go. This has to be lethal.
Surely.
Like, one Frostbolt will be huge by this point.
Yeah, that would just be straight up lethal. Yeah, if you go for the secret first, you still have Flame Strike active to clear the entire board. You have all the outs for straight up burn damage. There's the
Missiles are
Flame
free.
Strike.
Wait, Flame Strike into missiles? That feels like it should be lethal.
That feels like Omega
Yeah.
lethal at this point. There we go.
I meant
Kin
even-
equalizes it at 1 game apiece. Nicely done.
Not gonna lie, I forgot the minions could even attack. I thought the Flame Strike missiles was just lethal on its own. Maybe it was. Oh, I got very tense at the end there.
Did much closer than I thought it had any right to be, but I think for the most part there, it was probably well done by Kin. That last turn before he won the game was a bit awkward, to be fair, because he went for the line of not proccing the secrets, not proccing the spell to get dirty tricks to deny cards, but at the same time he played a 0-mana 8/8 for his opponent, which made things a little scary, but you do want to represent the counter lethal on the other side, so I'm okay with getting the proactive 8/8 down, start pushing for lethal, even if it didn't quite work out.
Indeed. Very clean gameplay there on both sides. And now we move on to the Warrior versus Demon Hunter game. And we've talked about how Kin's lineup seems to be built to try and bully Bomb Warrior a little bit. In Kin's Demon Hunter list, there's double Ooze, which could play a really, really big deal. But the Polk Out inclusion, I feel like in most matchups, hurts more than it helps.
Yes, I think I agree with you there. It doesn't feel like it's really getting the job done in most of the matchups. Like, the thing you have to bear in mind is that although it didn't look very good in the series we just saw it in with Kin playing it, like the idea of it being there with just going draw Sociologist and then you draw Skull perfectly on 6 is very powerful. But I'm not sure if at this point in the metagame it's worth the inclusion when there's some pretty powerful tech options you can throw in instead with Spectral Sight or Battle Fiends or Ooze or Sticky Finger or even just still throwing in a Magtheridon as a pretty reasonable play. Even if you're not facing many druids. And given that we are now going to see it against the warrior, I do think if it ever was going to find a good matchup, I guess it would be this one.
I tend to agree. I think Polk Out is a card that you can play in Demon Hunter when you're already ahead and you want the pressure to keep going because the interaction between Polk Out and Skull makes it so that the Skull you play on turn 6, assuming you get it down on Outcast on 6 mana, means you can't immediately play anything you get off the Skull because you're discounting very expensive things to begin with. So it's like 2 turns of slow plays in order to put together a huge burst on the next turn. And that often feels like it doesn't get there against, say, mages or face hunter or even priest like we saw a while ago. But against warrior, where you assume you're going to be ahead on board in the mid game, maybe Polk Out can be the difference maker.
Maybe the pirate that we do see, the warrior that we do see on the other side is the pirate variant, as I reversed my word ordering there, which I think does again help somewhat in the matchup. You have the armor gain, which is the main bit, but even just the ability to clear off these extra early little boards can be worth a fair bit in its own right.
Yeah, sometimes playing down an early armor smith heals you more in the long run by taking damage from the small chip minions that Kin would be playing down. And now that TIZS has 2 of them, it would be interesting to see if he would just throw one down. Maybe not with Corsair Cash as the other option, though.
Really nice start, though, for TIZS here. I think that going for the counter-aggro game plan definitely doesn't always work, but it just makes the Demon Hunter's life that little bit harder. They can't just ignore everything you're doing and push face every single turn. They have to start healing, they have to start worrying about drawing cards is the big one if there's a bunch of bombs in their deck. So this looks pretty powerful for TIZS.
Ooh, but for Kin, the curve is also shaping up to be very threatening. Now, 2 activations of shuffles into the deck, so Lapidary is very safe to be able to come down the next turn. However, it's not the coin 5 into 5 that is ideal because the Glavebound wouldn't be active if you coin Lapidary into Glavebound, so could see him take a turn on the Marrow Slicer first.
I mean, I don't even hate going for the kind of reverse ordering of coin Soul Shard and then Marrow Slicer hero power, just because a 5/5 in play to me is worth an awful lot.
That's true. And you still work out like Skull in the near
Right.
future in that case. I kind of like that, actually.
I kind of like that too. I think it's obviously vulnerable to Warpath, I suppose, but outside of that, there's really not much that it instantly dies to.
I miss Warpath.
Oh, Bladestorm, sorry, yeah. Warpath. I miss it as well,
Okay.
actually.
They're kind of the same thing, except Bladestorm's cheaper. Okay, counter push starting for TIZS. He doesn't quite have the early Blastmaster boom, which I feel is necessary if the warrior wants to race Demon Hunter this early on. When that's not an option, I feel that the warrior definitely has to find the removal pieces and then put together the armor. Which, to be fair to TIZS, he has both those options.
And obviously unsure as to which he should develop on this turn. Like, the Soul Shard is generally better when saved because it has synergy with, you know, Lifesteal off the Eldraki, Blade Dance. It also, however, if used here, eats up a shard from your deck, which is not insignificant when you're probably going for Skull in the next couple of turns.
It's true. And it's also, I guess, a small deal not dead straight up to the Wrench Caliber. Although if TIZS
True.
is face tanking that, you are very, very happy. Oh, Skipper.
Skip a double Smith, and then
And Sword and Board.
Sword and Board, yeah.
That's tons of armor gained. And then you lead up into a pretty clean Galakrond the next turn.
Yeah, the alternative, of course, being trade Bladestorm, if you think it's really necessary to save that, but I think just letting it rip right now is as good a time as any.
Yeah, TIZS is also just not running Battle Rages in his list, so there's not that much incentive for holding on to the Skipper, other than when you need it to gain more armor. But you're right, it's probably not even getting that much better than this.
All signs point to skippity skip skip, Sword and Board, loads of armor gain, looking in a much healthier spot, and now his own aggro game plan once again is unlocked. He can get 4 bombs in the deck, Galakrond next turn. The damage does not stop as well.
Doesn't? The Ooze coming in at the last possible second for Kin here. 3 bombs currently in Kin's deck. So if there's Blastmaster Boom anytime in the near future, it's still gonna get the full activation. But I'm smelling a Galakrond.
Me too. The minion you've drawn is, you know, not insignificant at this point, but the main part is obviously the damage through to the face. And it's going to be a really close one, I think, still here, because TIZS has more life than he started with in this game. He has plenty of removal, but I wonder if it's the right kind of removal, because just one big minion and one small minion is kind of perfectly shaped to play around all of these.
Our enemies will fall.
It's true. At this point, Kin doesn't have the resources to go for the race, though. He is kind of forced to go for a bit more removal. Okay, Shield Slam does make Bladestorm a bit more palatable, but then you're stuck with double Brawls in hand, and that also feels difficult to use. Maybe this is just a Brawl.
Yeah, I think it's a Brawl. It's obviously not the best play on this turn in terms of what you actually do to the board, but you can't be stuck with 2 Brawls. They are bad cards in the matchup, so you take them where you get them.
Brawl, and maybe also commit the Shield Slam, because he's very likely to just not have armor soon.
Maybe, yeah. I like that. Damage through to face is more important as well.
Yep. He is looking for the other caliber to get some use out of this Krastenov, but if we don't see it, it is just a big boy. It's an 8/8. Finally, Skull time for Kin, I would assume.
I think so. The 5 drops that go down to 2 are now playable as well, which is a pretty big deal, but he's just holding off again here. Wow.
I thought that was as good a time as any, because I think he had drawn all of the fragments.
Right. Yeah, me too.
But he wants to make sure he has something on board every single turn, which I can respect as well. TIZS did just commit 2 huge resources into a relatively small board.
That's true. And to be fair, like, I'm talking about 5 drops that are playable on that turn. Unless he wanted to throw down the coin as well to activate the glaive bound, like, Lapidary wasn't playable because there were no fragments in the deck. And he's only running 1 glaive bound anyway, which has already been played. So the development would have been very little if he'd gone with the skull. So on retrospect, I'm okay with this.
Oh, sorry. I think the deck tracker's a bit. Oh no! That one
He's
came
just
from the Marrow
shuffled it.
Slicer. Just
Poor
okay.
warlock.
We're looking for Blade Dance too to get rid of this Krasinov. Oh, it's in hand. Okay.
Yeah, the clear is there no matter what. It was just about trying to keep the soul fragments alive. And to be fair now, with Spirit Jailer, Soul Shear, Soulciologist Militia all in one turn, just the straight up board control route is still kind of a possibility for Kin if he wants to go for that.
Definitely attacking from both fronts. He's had way more card draw than TIZS has had access to this entire time. Kronks. Or 8-8?
You'd think so.
Is nigh.
Like, we could argue about whether you're supposed to go for 5 damage to face there to try and get that out of, like, 2 bombs over the next couple of turns.
Nah, I think he's just seen a Blade Dance. It has to be this. Only 2 fragments in the deck, but Kin can shuffle 2 more with the Soul Shear. That seems very clean.
He gets Demon Companion into Kolek as well. That could be huge.
I don't actually think it is. Oh wait, it lets you trade the Spirit Jailer instead and maintain 1 more. At this point, I want the Spirit Jailer to go face. Though.
Yeah, actually, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't make much difference. Okay. It's 1 damage to face instead of 2 off of Refa. Just kind of bad.
Yep. Oh.
Brawl Bladestorm Hero Power.
Looks like it. Ankar picks up either Risky Skipper or Horde Pillager. I
Right.
called it Ricky Skipper.
Ricky Skipper. Yeah, we got Vincent Infiltrator, Ricky Skipper.
Steward of Scrolls. The whole gang.
I think because Ankar doesn't help the breakpoints here, in terms of 2 bombs, you do just have to go Bladestorm.
It hurts because if you hit the Horde Pillager, then it takes a while to even get all the weapon charges through because you have to swing the Ankar to even get it. But so much damage for Kin. There's so many top decks. That's not one of them.
2, 7, 9, 10. A couple of points off lethal, which means TIZS has an out.
Indeed. 2 bombs in the deck for Kin, 3 soul fragments. Not especially likely for TIZS to do this, but... Oh no!
Unplayable.
Unactivatable.
It's got 1 shot.
Only 2 bombs. It is highly, highly unlikely Kin has got over the line. I do believe.
That's it. The Demon Hunter looking absolutely dominant in that game, to be honest. And not really through any virtue of Kin's, just because the Warrior deck just fell apart. It ran out on all the value because it didn't hit the Ankar at the start. There was no card draw whatsoever. Kind of a side effect of playing a deck without any battle rages as well, as you said. And so it's just pretty unimpressive from the Warrior, just not really doing much of anything that game.
Yeah, it goes back and forth when you're not running the pirate package. That means you have room for maybe a bit more cycle in terms of the other cards, like not necessarily Battle Rage, but actually TIZS has still found room for Evil Quartermaster and Cutting Class, which he never hit. So I would have to say that's pretty unlucky from TIZS.
That's fair. Yeah, the Cutting Class is a big deal in terms of beefing up your card draw, and I think he gave himself the best shot. Like, the one thing we can talk about is I think even then, no, he went about it the right way. Like, I was trying to think if there were any way he could get more damage through to face over those turns, and even though there was maybe a couple of points here and there, I think for the most part he had a good balance between removal, using the brawl when he had to, and trying to get the damage to face. It just wasn't quite enough in the end to counteract all the pressure that Kin had access to. 1 game away now from Kin saving himself from automatic relegation. Alutemu will be watching on the sidelines, praying that this, well, I mean, it almost seems mean-spirited, but basically praying that Kin doesn't get the win because he wants to protect himself from being relegated out of Grandmasters. And it all comes down to just the rogue for Kin, the weapon rogue, which has looked strong in some series, very weak in others, just needs to get 1 win against Secret Rogue or Bomb Warrior.
And the deck kind of rose in popularity to begin with because it has a good matchup up against the Bomb Warrior from TIZS.
Yep.
So I highly expect the Weapon Rogue to get through at some point. Kin's build has 1/1 Thief teched in there, which I believe came in very clutch the other day. I can't remember what card it gave, but it was the perfect one for the exact situation. Maybe a Devolving Missiles.
I think
He still
so,
has
yeah.
the double Vulpera Toxin Blade, which has kind of fallen from popularity, but I do think that having a consistent curve is better up against the Bomb Warrior.
Yeah, you just want to make sure that you're hitting your weapons first of all, and then if you hit your weapons, you want to make sure that you get the buffs to go along with them. But TIZS is taking the good matchup first with the Secret Rogue up against the Weapon Rogue, and he's taking the good card once again with Edwin Van Cleef in his starting hand. Although he has already had that at the start of the game once today, and it didn't get there.
Not quite, but this is looking very promising. Pharaoh Cat with the 35% to activate Vendetta. To begin with, Vendetta has largely fallen from popularity from the Secret Rogue lists.
And it's still a weird list even
oh
then.
My god,
from
it's
TIZS.
yellow! Yellow border.
Yep, that's the one. Might not have a target yet, though, weirdly enough.
Correct. I fully expect him to just dagger and pass here. Save up for the Greyheart Sage next turn.
Indeed. But yeah, it's a weird list from TIZS. He's only running the 1 Dragon's Horde, and I think that's, in a way, good, because the bad part of the Vendetta list isn't the Vendetta, it's the Dragon's Horde being a very subpar card most of the time. But it does mean, of course, that your Vendetta is significantly harder to activate, which is why it's such a big deal that he got the Winged Guardian.
Winged Guardian itself, if the Edwin doesn't close out the game on its own, is a very big deal.
True.
Kin does not have Sap in the list. He simply cannot interact with the 6/8 other than swinging into it. But I get the feeling that it's not going to come to that.
Is this? No, yeah. I was going to say, is it ever Miscreant because they left the Stealth Spy Mistrux on board? Like, that is kind of scary. Your Edwin's only going to be an 8/8 at the end here. There are ways it can die, but it's a 3-mana 8/8. It's just almost always the correct play.
Nice talk you had with yourself there, Dark.
I mean, there was something going on there. I came round, but I don't think that was the easiest Edwin I've ever seen.
Okay. Fair enough. And the direct consequence is that this turn is ever so slightly awkward for TIZS. Just gonna go for the passage. That is fine. And he guaranteed has Jandis the next turn. Oh my goodness.
Prep is obviously a little dead. Can he get up to 10-10 on this turn?
Yes, he can. He can. If you prep first and then step in. Oh, yeah.
Which I think is probably more worth than giving them an extra +1 on their spell cost.
Yeah, I would agree. Honestly, Weapon Rogue, I don't even know what you're supposed to be scared of when they don't have the self-sharpening sword just yet. And now it takes an expensive Eviscerate to get through this Edwin.
It does, and it's just doubly brutal here. Like, the fact that he has to start using buffs on a non-actual weapon, just on the dagger, has to use so many resources killing off the Edwin, and then Jandis just comes through, and it's so backbreaking next turn.
So many
Is it Deadly
options.
Poison this turn? Backstab, Eviscerate, you still have to trade 2 minions, so yeah, might as well just Deadly Poison and get that out of the way.
Yeah, you can't go Toxin Blade of this, can you? Like, I suppose you don't. Like, there was a play you could go for of Toxin Blade Backstab and then trade everything into the Edwin, all 3 of your minions, which then sets up for Deadly Poison, Cutting Class Steel Dancer on the next turn, but then your Toxin Blade could die. So I think this is probably the best way to go about it.
What makes something real?
Curve never stops.
Whoa,
How many Mazakis have we seen today?
many.
Okay, Toxin Blade, cutting classes for free. We're looking for Dread Corsairs. We're looking for Eviscerate, I guess. That's something decent.
Oh, those are good for next turn, but we need immediate answers now. Correct guess.
Yeah, I think it's fine to kill the Mazaki because he knows next turn is Jandis instead of Steel Dancer anyway.
Alright, the game is still open, but
Oh,
Shadow Step is a ludicrous top deck. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's not fair. You can also play Miscreant.
Okay, I guess even if you're gonna go... Whoa. Does the Witchy Lucky change that now though? Nah, probably not, probably not.
What makes
So, we need a stronger Jandis from Kin, and everything needs to have Rush or something. Oh my gosh, the Faceless has Rush. That's not fair.
That is not
Here,
fair.
We're looking for Ras Frost Whisper. Ras Frost Whisper. That's the other.
I like it. I mean, even just one will clear most of this board.
Yeah.
That's not it though. I think we're going to game 5 here.
We absolutely are. One more game to decide whether Kin has a shot to stay in Grandmasters, and TIZS himself, if he wins, it has a lot of implications for who ends up in the relegation bracket. So much on the line.
So much indeed. And even though Kin has been one of the most stoic players here in Grandmasters, almost to a comical degree when he is being absolutely destroyed in the most insane of circumstances time and again, and we still see absolutely no emotion from him whatsoever, I imagine he's feeling the pressure now. He's in a decent spot. This is why you bring Weapon Rogue for the most part over the Secret Rogue, because you find yourself in a decent matchup against Bomb Warrior. There is, however, a pretty defensive package in in TIZ's Warrior. Obviously, there's the Pirate package that you're looking for, 2 Quartermasters as well for more armor gain. The main part, however, is there's no weapon destruction teched in, which is a massive boon to the Weapon Rogue.
Yes, he can get through with the self-sharpening swords, but it kind of has to be best of both worlds for Weapon Rogue. In my experience, you need to have the early stealth minions plus the sword. One or the other might get raced down or too easily cleared by Risky Skipper. This is a matchup where Skipper on 1 for Warrior on the play is super backbreaking for the Weapon Rogue.
Yeah, I see your point. I don't know if I actually agree, though. I think that as long as you hit the self-sharpening sword and the rest of your hand isn't completely dead, you're in such a good spot in the matchup because you just have so much of your deck that synergizes with it, be it the Cutting Class, the Steel Dancers, Krastinov, even just drawing cards with the Secret Passage can be insane there as well. You just have to find the sword.
And somebody has found the weapons, but it's not Kin. For TIZS, though, are you saying Corsair cash to get the Wrench Caliber is the main game plan? I definitely like the Anchor Keep because you absolutely need Risky Skipper. I just wonder, like, will you even have time to play Wrench Caliber?
I think I'm okay with this. Like, Corsair Cash is just a good card still. Like, if you give Rogue infinite time to just plan out their game plan, eventually they'll hit the power spikes and you'll lose. You need to be putting forward your own game plan in one way or another, I think.
Fair point. Kin gonna start off with the Hooked Scimitar here to immediately get his Dread Corsair online and discount the cutting class.
Love it.
Also just awkward to swing Ankar into this.
Yeah, it comes down at the perfect time before the Wrench Caliber that you don't know for certain, but expect to be in hand for turn 4. And just with the amount of card draw that Kin has, I think honestly, as long as he doesn't play too much for tempo and instead holds on to these card draw effects, he will just never run out of the resources he needs to end the game.
Certainly feels like it. Oh, that's a free cutting class now too.
Sure, sign me up.
And you can send everything face. I guess you can VT for Bladestorm. Imagine trading.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say I didn't mind the VT Bladestorm, but I guess in that case, you then go Worgen Infiltrator, Self-Sharpening Sword, and just move very happily on with your day. This is already looking absolutely disastrous for TIZS.
He can put something together, but it takes time. Wrench Caliber deals with the not weapon buffing minion, which feels awful. But then you have the cutting class discount for the next turn. Maybe you draw into the armor gaining effects, like, or specifically Armor Smith, because he has Risky Skipper in hand.
I think if anything is going to come together, it does kind of revolve around drawing the Armor Smith.
Okay. So he is just thinning his deck out as much as possible. I don't mind the upgrade on this whatsoever.
Yeah, I think this is a very smart way to go about it. Kin, though, still has the 3-attack self-sharpening sword ready to come down right here. I mean, you never go Greyheart Sage, right? It's always just the sword.
Yeah, I mean, he has Delinquent to activate it on the next turn anyway. Get the damage flowing. He didn't trade last turn, but maybe you're a bit more scared now of some Armor Smith shenanigans, so can sometimes trade into the 2-3.
Really? You have
I want the sword.
You have 8 swings at least to get through here. At least.
Many options.
Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Killing the minion makes Armor Smith a little bit less threatening too.
Well,
yay.
that's potentially a breath of air, at least for TIZS, as he tries to stay above water here. That gets him the little bit of armor he needs to survive another couple of turns. Try and find the Armor Smith. It's card draw as well, obviously. Blastmaster Boom, completely inactive right now.
Drawing like a madman to find the Armor Smiths, but they are still nowhere to be found. The damage never stops for Kin.
I mean, the best that TIZS is looking at is, I guess, just going for a tempo skipper play without the Armor Smith unless he can find it right now. And there it is! That's the card he needed.
There are a fair amount of activations. Actually, no, right? Because the Witchy doesn't count. Like, you don't want to evolve either the Skipper or the Armor Smith.
Well, he could go Skipper, Armor Smith, and then Witchy Lackey, the 1-1 Armor Smith is the only thing left over. Oh no, wait, there'd still be a Skipper on board as well. Yeah, it's a little awkward.
I think this order is better, right?
Yes, this is better.
Now you evolve the 1-1, and you still kill the... Yeah. Perfectly
Scrap
spot. Wow!
Hound?
Scrap Hound too! That's super annoying for Kin, and it's not backstabbable at the moment.
Oh, that was an insane turn for TIZS. He needed that to happen to have any chance at all. To be fair, though, Kin's looking at all of this and saying, okay, I can just count up all the damage in my hand. He's still winning. This is still not enough for TIZS to get there quite yet.
Not, but can Kin just count up that easily because the Scrap Hound is 2 damage? Armor Smith with Skipper left up is at least another 3 armor at some point. Oh, that makes things simple.
That Krusty is nutty here.
In the shadows.
Where does it
Instantly-
go? This...
Yeah, like, he played the Spy Mistress and then was like, wait a second, what just happened there? Okay.
So this kind of protects the Spy Mistress a little bit. I honestly do not know which minion Kin was supposed to trade into there, but if you're leaving Skipper up, it doesn't make sense to play Spy Mistress, so...
Yeah, that almost felt like covering for a hastily thought-out turn. Like, just trading in the Kresnov and going face did feel a little bit spicier to me.
Yeah, trading into the 2-1 potentially, and then just saying if you play any minion, the armor spec
Oh,
dies.
sure, yeah.
I'm not sure, but TIZS has begun the counter push. Wrench Caliber equipped, next turn another swing, Blastmaster Boom for a ton of charges.
Is it really enough to get there? It's gonna be close. There's the Eviscerate in hand. More damage coming through on this turn.
Yeah, I don't think it's enough. I mean, Kin is just going all face here to make sure that if there is a boom, it can't just be the play. It needs to come down with a whirlwind effect too, and he's seen both the skippers, so not gonna happen. Boom Shield
That is an
Slam?
interesting top deck though, because Boom Shield Slam is now a consideration. You delete 5 damage from the board.
Right. And, sorry, how big is this self-sharpening at the moment?
I believe it's up to 7 attack now, but obviously 5 without the...
Right, so he'd be leaving 11 on the board, and then you're dead to double Evis or Evis plus another deadly poison. It's quite a lot of things. Taking the slight delay.
I apologize.
Trying to go for the bomb outs.
Yeah, 7 before the attack, 6 now, which means 9 plus Eviscerate. It's not quite there for lethal. Kin can try and dig for it with Secret Passage on this turn. 9 plus 8. Second Eviscerate is not lethal, though. He needs something more.
Plus, he would have to play the Spectral before Eviscerate, the first one, to activate it, because unless you want to backstab your 3-1...
Yeah.
I brought enough for everyone.
Just trying to make sure that Boom by itself is not a play next turn.
Oh, he's trading as well. He knows that as long as he doesn't die, the damage is on his side. And this still threatens lethal for the next turn. It's still demanding that TIZS find a better answer than Blastmaster Boom.
It's insanely close. But if the answer isn't Boom, it could just be swing face and try to get 2 bombs off the top.
Oh my god.
And it certainly feels like that's about to happen with a brawl. Lackey
Win
first.
the brawl. Yeah. Yep.
Because if you lose the brawl, Lackey can't kill
shoot
anything.
anything.
Yeah, exactly. So throw it in there. Go for the 40%er. 3 bombs in the deck for Kin.
Is he actually getting there? This felt so unlosable for Kin. Oh. That's a lost brawl, but he's still alive.
Oh my gosh. So self-sharpening sword into passage, and the bombs will not activate off of passage, but they muck up the things you can play. Oh no!
Oh! Okay, those are both playable.
Yes.
And a taunt in the way is a massive deal on this turn.
Yeah, very, very big deal. There's just not even that much damage left in Kin's stack.
Right.
He has 2 deadly poisons, the other secret passage, but the rest are minions. There's the one of Wand Thief and Jandis, but there's also just 3 bombs.
Oh, cutting class? Okay.
Oh my god,
okay.
That's insane. Blade Storm Boom, that's gotta be game.
I think that's just it.
I think it is too.
I think Kin knows it as well. And there it is. It was so close with the Weapon Rogue up against the Bomb Warrior. It looked like a favorable. It looked like Kin was miles in the lead. But it is the draw off the top of the Blade Storm for the counter-lethal after a fantastically played game by TIZS, to be fair to him, that knocks Kin out of Grandmasters. That is it, Gia. We have our 2 players being automatically relegated, and while it breaks my heart to say it, that's the end of the line for Kin on that one. It's a tough way to go out, you know, like I was saying a little bit earlier here, it's not been the best couple of seasons here for Kin by any stretch of the imagination. He ended up at the bottom of Division A last season, bottom of Division B this season, and it's only going to be the 2 seasons altogether for Kin here. It's such a sad way for him to go out, but I still I think he can hold his head high, because that is the thing that Gia and I have said consistently over the 2 seasons we've seen him play. His results did not reflect his play. I think he's had an incredibly high level of play along the way. The metagame that it's ended up evolving into, to be fair, does not seem to suit his playstyle very well. More of a control player. And having to go with the likes of Weapon Rogue, Demon Hunter, Tempo Mage, I think he gave it the best shot he possibly could. But that's going to be it. TIZS gets his spot in the top 4, and it's the end of the road for Kin.
It's a tough way to send Kin off, but I am absolutely impressed with pretty much everything I've seen from him whenever he's had the opportunity to play on stream. And I would not be surprised at all if he could just make it through right back in, because he's had pretty good performances in the Masters Tours to begin with. There is future tours for him to perhaps perform really well on. And if anything, I am just thankful to whoever runs the power in this place that I got to witness the end of that match before I unceremoniously got blacked out.
Yeah, a bit of an unfortunate one